Channel 5 network. This is OpenLine.
Hello everyone, welcome to OpenLine. We could not help ourselves. It is the night before Halloween. So of course we want to talk about ghosts, paranormal activity. Do you believe in it? Does it happen? And there are a bunch of people in Middle Tennessee that actually investigate these occurrences. They investigate them in residences and buildings and I guess hotels all over. And we want to talk to some that we consider very credible tonight. And we are very happy to have with us Military Veterans Paranormal, MVP. We have with us Melanie Ramsey. She's the founder and lead investigator. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And Adam Barton, also an investigator with Military Veterans Paranormal. All right, I have tons of questions. And I encourage you to call in. If you have some question, go ahead, give us a call. How long have you been doing this, first of all?
Individually, I've been doing this since early 2000. You've been doing it, what?
99, 2000.
Mm-hmm. So good.
But
good
MVP, oh, yeah, between just the two of us, we've got about 40 years, and then you add other members on the team. But MVP's been around since officially 2013.
And MVP is a little different. I mean, you look this up, there are a lot of organizations that do this, right? Mm-hmm. What kind of sets you guys apart?
We're all military. In order to be a member of MVP, you either have to have served in the military and have a DD-214 with an honorable discharge or be active duty. And so the way that we approach the paranormal is very much like how we approach any mission in the military. We have tactics, technique, procedures, and we follow strict discipline. So we're also very balanced. Mm-hmm. I'm more on the skeptic side. He's more on the believer side. We have other team members that are on both, so we check each other that way.
Because, I mean, obviously that's the question everybody has. Are there ghosts? Is this paranormal activity? Can it be explained, or is it something else that we can't explain? And you're saying even on your crew, there are differing points of view.
Yes, absolutely. I'm not 100% sold. Other people are.
Oh, yeah, look at me like that.
So you are more sold. And why?
Yes. From the things that I experienced growing up as a child, I had my first paranormal experience in St. Augustine, Florida at 12 years old. And that's kind of what piqued my interest. But I don't go into every place going, yes, it's haunted 100%.
Right. And all right, so how many calls do you guys go out on? You get how many calls a year, a month, whatever? I mean, how busy are you?
We stay busy. We get a lot of requests from historians asking us to look at major occurrences that may have happened in their towns, to a lot of residential requests. So we get at least 4 to 5 emails a month, and then we decipher from there.
And what are you primarily doing? Is it residences, or would it be hotels? What are you primarily going to investigate?
We've done residences, we've done CIDs, or criminal investigation departments, we've done places on Fort Campbell, we've done historic sites. We recently just finished wrapping up 8 months of research on the whole Bell Witch legend. God bless America.
See, I'm fascinated by that too. There's a whole play about it, there are movies about it. Mm-hmm. It just seems like there's no doubt that happened.
Well, you know, I have to pause. I really have to pause on that, just because I'm one of those people where if there's no documentation and there's no historical facts to back it up, then I cannot say that it did happen. I can say that something happened, but whether or not it was paranormal, I will not say that.
Was it John Bell?
It was.
Isn't he the only person in recorded history or in U.S. history whose death certificate says death by spirit? Am I right by that?
I haven't seen it.
You haven't seen it?
I haven't seen it.
You haven't seen that?
That's the problem, is that, you know, a lot of this is based off of a diary that nobody saw, that was written 35 years after the occurrence by someone else. So when you add those things in, then I have to question it, because that's what I do.
All right, I like that we have a skeptic and then somebody who's not as skeptical. I think that's good. If I had a problem that I wanted looked into, I would want that. I would want somebody who was skeptical, and I would want somebody who at least believed that I wasn't making this stuff up. So I know you don't like to give any confidential information.
Right.
But what is behind much of what you go and see? Is it maybe people just misunderstand what's going on, or is it truly paranormal activity? And I'll let you both answer this, since you both may have different, responses. But what is behind what you mainly see?
Most of the time, I will say 9.5 times out of 10, we can find a logical, plausible explanation. People have different we call visual pareidolia, where the mind plays tricks on them. You can see dinosaurs in clouds, Jesus in toast, that sort of thing. Audio pareidolia, where you think you hear footsteps, or you think that it is somebody whispering in your ear, and it could be a house popping, things like that. However, there are some times that we've come across it where we just cannot find a logical, plausible explanation. I would say most of the time for me, I would say that it is something related to the house.
So you said 9.5 times out of 10. That's
Yes.
a lot.
More times.
So it's very rare that you aren't solving these situations in a way that that is not paranormal, I guess, that you can explain.
That's the way that I see it. Quite honestly, I don't believe that somebody can go to a location, they're possessed, 20 minutes later they're exorcised. If that was the case, the Catholic Church would have a drive-through. And that's just not what we see. I don't think that it works that way. And I've been doing this a long time. That doesn't mean that I'm saying that ghosts don't exist. I'm just saying that more often than not, there is an explanation. It's just there's those rare occurrences where you can't explain it that keeps me in this.
Yeah, that keeps you in it. And what about you? What's the percentage, if we can drill down into that? What about you?
I'd say about 50-50. Just because we can find a logical, plausible explanation doesn't mean that that's exactly what's happening. Just because we can recreate a sound doesn't mean that's the homeowner is making it, or that the foundation is settling. So it's about a 50-50 toss-up for me.
That means you feel like about half the calls reflect paranormal activity. About half the calls. The other half may be other things going on, and I'm sure the homeowners are more than happy to have it explained that way. But wow, so that's a lot. Mm-hmm. So what are we talking about? If there's paranormal activity, what do you chalk that up to? And since you believe a lot more, what do you chalk that up to? What is going on there?
It really depends on the situation. Are we talking about a poltergeist? Are we talking about just something that's living within your house, or the different genres? Just of the spiritual side, you've got what I believe is residual, which would be like a record player going non-intelligent, and you have intelligent, and even quite possibly demonic. So a lot of times, from my personal experience, it's been more just an intelligent haunting.
Just a what?
An intelligent haunting.
An intelligent haunting.
And that's where supposedly the spirit, the entity, the ghost can communicate with the living. And that's where EVPs come in, where they're talking or responding to the questions that are being presented to them. That's intelligent. The thought behind the residual is that they don't know that they've passed, so they just keep repeating the same behavior, walking into a room, walking out of the room, going up the stairs, coming down the stairs, oblivious to anything else. It's just like a repeat. So those are the two different types of ghostly activity they say that they have.
Wow. All right. And so what you get to a place, are you going to look at the history? All right, let's say you rule out all the other stuff. So
okay.
You feel like this can't be explained, perhaps it's paranormal. Do you look at the history? And for these that you feel like are paranormal, is it something to do with, the traditional thing that you see in movies, somebody was killed there and they remain because they don't want to go on to the next world or whatever? I mean, what is behind this?
Well, not every team member knows the history of the location. That's one of the things that our team does that's different. I have my members go in blind. I do the historical research, or I'll have one other person also look at the historical research. And we do that first. And then other members, they go in completely blind, not knowing the claims, not knowing the history behind it. And that's important, because if they know the claims, if they know the history behind it, and they walk into this location, then they automatically walk in with some form of bias. And that can actually contaminate data that's collected or what they think that they hear, because they're trying to fit it into something. So if they don't know anything from the get-go, if let's say he hears someone whistling Dixie and that was a claim, but he didn't know about it before, there's more credibility to what he heard as opposed to if I told him that first and foremost. So they don't know the history behind it until after all of the data has actually been reviewed by everybody. Then I fill everyone in.
And how long would an investigation take? So that's, I'm interested by that. So I call your organization, you come out there, you would know a little bit more of the history, you would know maybe what it is I'm saying is happening, and you would go in not knowing that stuff. I mean, how long are you going to investigate my situation?
It depends. It depends on the claims, it depends on the location, but it's never where we go in, we stay in there 24 hours, and then in 24 hours you're done collecting all your data and reviewing it, and then you have an answer 3 days later. It's actually a long process, because for every hour that we're doing an EVP session where we're sitting and asking questions and listening, that's 1 hour we also have to listen back. And if we have cameras, that's 1 hour we have to watch back. And then we bring everything together and we debate everything. We present what we find, because every individual investigator on this team has to review all of the data alone. We cannot discuss what we review, what we find, we write it down to prevent me from, you know, getting my bias onto him. So it takes some time to go through that, and then we go back for a secondary if there's still questions.
All right, I'm going to start taking calls here in a minute, but is there any, so you're in this world, you're aware of this world, is there any sort of credible video? And I know that is kind of part of your equipment that you would bring in. Is there any credible video that you have seen, maybe you have gotten it, or that you've seen from some other group of paranormal investigators? Is there any credible video of something paranormal that you would point to and go, boy, that's the quintessential sort of thing?
We call it the Holy Grail.
Is there the Holy Grail?
No.
I've yet to see it.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah, I've yet to see it. Our cameras are more for accountability. And if we do catch the Holy Grail, then we'll be the first one to have it. But
right.
Accountability of everybody's movements, where they're at. Did somebody shift when we heard that noise? Anything to that extent.
I mean, we've captured things on video that has caused us to scratch our head, but then what we do is we take that piece of film footage and we send it out to a videographer, professional photographer, and someone else who have nothing to do with the paranormal, so that they can review that to ensure that, okay, are we doing our due diligence? That's the best way that we can do this. Part of the NCO creed in the Army is that I will not compromise my integrity nor my moral courage, and our team stands by that. If we didn't do that, we would be compromising our integrity.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's go to the phones here. Brian, are you there?
Oh yeah, I was waiting. I was scared. I love all the scary stories. Let me tell you. A couple of them. The first one, when I was in Stanton, Virginia, my brother, who was just starting out as an eye doctor, this was in the, the early 90s, when I was just out of college. And they were renting they got this big old mansion outside of Stanton, Virginia, where Mary Baldwin College is, Stanton, Virginia. You guys might be familiar. Outside Charlottesville, at the Park, Richmond. Anyway, it's this big old, it's not a mansion, but it's a big house, like 1820s or something, and supposedly a lot of the stuff is from way, way back when. And they had half of it blocked off. And they had like a serpentine fence. Actually had a little stream that went through. You could cool things down. I guess they had slaves and different stuff, and the cattle at night. So they were there for a couple of years, and I got there in the fall, and then they got a big new job in Richmond. So I just did it myself a few months. And I swear to God, you blocked off the house, right at all kind of noises at night, ghosts and stuff. I swear to God. And
so what do you mean? All right, did you see? What do you mean you ghosts? Like all kinds of ghosts?
Like mowing and stuff. It could have been the house creaking.
Right.
I could imagine these things. I would walk down the hallway. I would hear somebody walking down the other hallway upstairs. I would hear moaning or talking. I knew there was nobody else there. So I got out after a few months, even though I was staying for free in this big old mansion.
you couldn't-
This also happened in Virginia. I was out near Williamsburg, Virginia, where there's a lot of ghosts in Williamsburg, Virginia. And I was out towards the country. I was working at this job that allowed me to stay in this house instead of going all the way back to Stanton, where I was living. After I left the mansion thing.
Right.
And I got the house like once a week to myself, so I wouldn't have to drive all the way back, and I could hang out, whatever. It was unfurnished. And I was sleeping downstairs. The house was practically empty except for the little furniture I had, big old farmhouse. And I heard walking up and down upstairs. And next day, on Monday or something, I told one of the people that was at the place I was working. They said, "Oh, yeah, that's where you found it." I never went back. Now, since I've been in Tennessee, the only place I thought I saw a ghost was when I lived by Bellevue, and there was an old house. I guess a lady had died there.
Right.
And I lived with a lady friend, and I said, "Hey, last night something spooky happened. She's an old lady in a white nightgown." I thought so.
All right, Brian, thank you. So there's 3 cases from Brian right there. He feels like he's seen this, he's felt it, he's left, he's vacated at least 2 places. How common is what he's saying?
Very, especially here in Middle Tennessee. I mean, we're around a lot of historic sites, especially like Civil War era claims. We get a lot of those as well. It's not uncommon. That doesn't necessarily mean they're all paranormal. It also doesn't mean that they're not. Carl Sagan said, absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you, Brian, that what happened to you was not paranormal and it's all in your mind. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that why is she always in a white dress? Did they not have any other colored dress? I mean, these are logical questions that I have, that it's always the same description. Or they're in period dress. Which period? There's more than one, but nobody can seem to explain that to me. And then you can't really recreate a personal story. That's completely subjective.
But that is interesting. Most of them would say white dress.
Oh, white dress. Why white?
All right, so you get a call from, let's say you get a call from Brian in a house like that. Lives on a farm, 1860s house, kind of out there on his own. He's downstairs and he's hearing footsteps going across upstairs. How do you tackle this?
You want to?
How would
first
you
thing
tackle
we're going to
it?
do is we're going to talk to him. We're going to ask him to leave the property, but just in case something there is intelligent. But we're going to talk to him unbiasedly and objectively. We're going to listen to his claims. And then we're going to see if there's anything that could be tampering. What's going on? Could it be electrical? Could it be plumbing? Could it be rodents? Could it be anything to that extent? After that, we're going to come up with a mission plan. That's when we're going to decide how many people we're going to take on this investigation, what kind of equipment to use, who's going to go in blind. Then we're going to go conduct the investigation per our standard operational procedures that we have set up as a team. And then at that point, we'll move forward from there.
In the interim, what I usually tell, for example, like with Brian, I would tell him first, keep a log. There's a lot to be said by what you write down, but don't discuss it with anybody. And if somebody says, hey, did something weird happen, just tell them, don't tell me, write it down. And I have them usually keep a log for a certain amount of time, and that way I can see it. And I can say, okay, this is usually, it's happening around this time or this time or this time. So we know, and this is a hot spot, we know we need to have cameras here, I need to have this amount of people here, because this is when the most claims are, and this is what this claim is. They won't necessarily know all of it. So there's a method behind the madness. There is. All
right, I'm fascinated. I want to ask, we're going to take a break, and then I'll take some more calls. Terrence and Ann, hold on the line. But I also want to ask when we come back, are you aware of a case where a ghost has harmed someone, or paranormal activity has actually harmed someone? And maybe the Bell Witch would be part of it.
We are not talking Bell Witch tonight.
But maybe, I don't know. All right, we'll take a break. Be back right after this.